Should AR-15s be protected under the Second Amendment? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nicholas Renner here, and I know this is a topic that's been covered a lot of times before, but I just want to give another angle about it, another perspective that I don't hear as often on this topic of whether standard configuration AR-15 should be covered. And I just want to give a brief synopsis, okay, of what I interpret the Second Amendment to mean. I interpret it to mean the well-regulated militia, not meaning governmental regulation, but meaning well-orderly, in common standing, and well-functioning, what it mean back in those times. They didn't write this amendment after having fought in a tyrannical government of their own government to then go, all right, now we just used our unregulated firearms that the government wasn't controlling, that the first thing they wanted to do was come control, but now that we just founded this new government to completely oppose the old government, to be a free government by the people and for the people. No, now we're just going to make it so the government can control the guns, and that if the government ever does become corrupt again, the people can never do the exact same thing we did. So no, people that can argue that, and they'll try to argue, like you hear some of these guys, some of these anti-gunners on Joe Rogan, they'll argue, you never had an individual right to own a gun until the Supreme Court ruling, that they ruled that you have an individual right to own a gun for self-defense inside the home, outside the home. But what they fail to remember is, what the hell were Americans doing from the time they wrote the Second Amendment until now? Our ancestors. So ask your grandpappy, you never shot guns before, right? Like, what the hell were we doing? You were hunting with your grandparents. Your great-grandparents had guns. They were hunting. The stories, literally the Wild West. Like, what the hell were people doing? Like this is retarded. We all know there was people had truck guns. Like, people didn't just stop using guns when they wrote the Second Amendment. People just stopped using guns up until 20 years ago when they just ruled that Supreme Court hearing. Like these people are actually delusional. Like, well, what the hell was my grandfather doing with a semi-auto? We've had semi-auto high-powered rifles since 1900, or probably even before then, okay? People brought their firearms for Boy Scouts. People were taught firearm education. Police used to come into schools and teach kids firearm education, but after some of these horrific shootings, instead of figuring out the root cause of it, right? When back in our grandparents' times and our fathers' times, they had high-powered rifles, high-powered semi-autos, and these shootings didn't occur because they used firearms as a tool, was a part of life. People didn't have mental illness like today. People knew their gender. I'm not saying all these shooters are trans, but these other guys that are doing it, they're mentally ill too, because you got to be mentally ill to get to that point. A gun is a lot more of an effective tool than a knife, but at the same time, you live in a free society that has to balance freedom with safety, and in our country, we don't choose safety over freedom. In our country, we choose freedom over safety. So with freedom comes bad things that happen, bad things that can happen, etc. And people that want to make fun of Charlie Kirk, people that want to say, oh, look, he stood for gun rights and he was gunned down. People that are saying that, you have to have problems right now. You literally have to have problems, because no one's mocking. No one on the right has ever mocked kids being killed by guns. No one's ever mocked people when there was a tragedy that happened. No one on the right has ever done that. Yeah, you guys are mocking Charlie Kirk. You guys are mocking, trying to say, oh, look, he stood for guns and he died. What about all the soldiers that stand for guns? What about all the police officers that are pro-Second Amendment, yet they go out on the streets every day and can possibly have that turned against them? Yet they still stand by it because they're real men. Because there's men and women that actually stand by their morals and values. Just like how we stand with the First Amendment, people's ability to disagree with us. The First Amendment can be turned on us. So yeah, we can have our right for freedom of speech, but it can also be turned against us. So you're going to call everyone that stands for freedom of speech a coward, or you're going to laugh at them saying, oh, look, freedom of speech was turned against you, buddy. We got to shut it down. No, these people are idiots. These people are actually lunatics. That's what I believe about the First Amendment and freedom of speech. I believe that the government can restrict them in very, very carefully overseen ways that align with historical tradition and the Constitution. They're trying to justify putting in these, saying that these are standard use AR-15s are unusually dangerous in order to ban standard use firearms. So they're trying to say that since we have a public health crisis and these weapons are unusually dangerous, so we can extrapolate. So instead of looking at it in the historical context, they're allowed to extrapolate in a more nuanced approach, which is completely bullshit. These are considered right now to be protected under the Second Amendment, protected under the common use, because this is considered your hunting style. This is not an assault weapon yet. It's an AR platform, but it's set up in a hunting configuration. But it shoots the exact same caliber, the exact same round as your standard AR-15 does. And I can't have a 30 30 round mag, it can only have a 10 round mag. This shoots a 5.56, a 22 caliber with a lot more powder behind it. So how does this legal in a place like New York State or California, etc.? Well, I'll show you. In New York, for example, you can't have a suspiciously protruding pistol grip. You can't have a telescoping stock. You can't have a muzzle device. You can't have any type of foregrip. So all of those features, you could by common sense reason that none of these things actually increase the lethality of the bullet coming out of the barrel, the round coming out of the barrel. It's a different debate about magazine size, which I still believe the ruling that they're trying to come out with right now, saying that magazines aren't considered arms and it doesn't violate the Second Amendment because it's not an arm. You can get a lower capacity magazine because these are unusually dangerous. By that same argument, they could go on to try to ban every single piece of your firearm that makes your firearm more effective for use of self-defense, because that same argument can be turned against you by saying, oh, you could use, this is helping you in effectiveness for self-defense. Well, it could be used in a crime as well to increase the criminal's lethality. So you have a holographic sight on your firearm. The holographic sight's not considered the actual firearm by the ATF. So by that standard, that's not considered an arm. Your holographic sight's not an arm, right? But that increases your ability to hit the target. You could say that increases your lethality. So by their standard of saying they could ban magazine capacities, that, oh, we can ban your holographic sight because this is making it increase lethality for the shooter. Oh, we can ban your trigger pull. You need to have like a 50-pound trigger pull. Like the Second Amendment, you're gonna have like a block gun that can shoot one round at a time, 50-round trigger pull, 30-second reload, while they have armed security with laser guns in 50 years. Like we're gonna be slaves. They want us to have nothing but muskets. They want us to be like what's going on in Europe. They want us to be like what's going on in Australia. It's an agenda, a disarmament, okay? So my whole argument here, ranting aside, is if this is protected under the Second Amendment in states like communist New York, communist California, that your normal AR-15 should be protected as well, because they cannot claim that your standard AR-15 is unusually dangerous and also say a Mini 14 that shoots the exact same round at almost the exact same fire rate with almost the exact same lethality ballistics wise, that something like a Mini 14 is covered under the Second Amendment, but all of a sudden you add a pistol grip and a collapsible stock to it and it's all of a sudden unusually dangerous. There's no way this could be held up, right? Obviously that argument is not an argument to bring to the Supreme Court, right? But all these things aside, they cannot argue on one hand to say that normal AR-15s are not in common use and not used for self-defense by saying that, oh, these are just semi-automatic forms of the fully auto AR M16 that they've already banned, because they've said that fully auto M16s are unusually dangerous, right? And they're just starting to rule that they're not fully protected under the Second Amendment, even though there's over 100,000 people that have them for lawful purposes right now and permitting and license to own them. So they're just saying because it looks like that, even though I believe those should be protected under the Second Amendment as well. In these blue states, why don't you give us a permitting system to own assault weapons, right? At least you cannot run afoul of the Second Amendment. Like if you're just trying to claim that we need more training and we need more law-abiding gun owners to have these weapons, not criminals on the streets. No, they just don't want you to have them in general. They don't want you to be permitted to have them. They only want their law enforcement and the government to have them, with very minor exceptions. So they cannot claim that assault weapons are highly dangerous and they're weapons of war, when the whole point of the Second Amendment, the whole point of the militia was to have common weapons of the time. The British regulars and the militiamen were using almost the same exact weapons. They were using the weapons of war at the time. So I believe this is all unconstitutional. And yeah, it might sound crazy, like, oh, you think machine guns should be allowed on the streets? Like, well, that's the problem right now, is we have so many different groups and cultures warring with each other, so many different ideas and mindsets, where we have a lot of foreigners believe we shouldn't have a Second Amendment. We have all these different groups fighting each other, and we have so many different groups causing crimes on the streets, right? Where if you just allow free access for everybody, obviously it's gonna play more into the hands of the gun control crowd, because when you put weapons in the hands of people that are literally have no clue what they're doing in society at all, they don't even speak English, they have no clue what's going on. If they do speak English, they're literally violent criminals and they end up getting locked in the prisons, and they're robbing and stealing all day long, and they're savages. You see it every day. You hand people those guns, you hand people like that guns, then you get violent statistics, then you get the gun numbers reaching all-time highs. You get the media being able to label that. But guess what? If you take your white, and this is not some racial topic, but it is going to be at this point, because this is literally the fact. If you just have white gun owners as a statistic alone in the United States, it wouldn't even rank top 5. It wouldn't even rank up there at all with any of these countries. It would be ranked along with all these other European countries and gun crime statistics low. So on top of all these other groups, and yeah, they'll say, oh, white people are shooting places up. Yeah, there's that aspect to it, but there's also, that doesn't even come close. That's horrible. That's horrific. That doesn't even come close to all the gang shootings going on that they The media literally is silent on every day. Like, the numbers don't even come close. And those are young kids too. So don't even try to downplay, these are kids. These are kids in schools and stuff. Yeah, that's horrific. But you're downplaying what's going on in the hood. So these people are the actual racists. These people that are downplaying everything going on in the hood and going on in all these other places, right? These people are claiming they're for you. If you're a person of color, these leftists and these communists claim they're for you, yet they want to keep you down. They want to use the violence in your community to justify stripping your rights and the rest of America's rights. Control chaos by shipping in the drugs into your community and using you. They're using you. Don't let them use you. I'm not saying that, only white people should be the ones that should be able to exercise the Second Amendment. No, like, obviously right now, before our country gets fixed and before we figure out this mental health crisis and everything, like, it obviously might be not smart just to let, like, literally mentally ill people get firearms, but also to even get a firearm right now, you need to go through background checks. You need to go through all this. So if it was constitutional in a lot of these blue states to get your standard common use ARs, you're gonna have to go through all these vetting processes anyway. So if you're gonna claim that this is completely legal to have, if you go through a permitting system in New York State, you get your pistol permit, you get your semi-automatic endorsement, that's completely legal in New York State. This is completely legal. But if you put a pistol grip on it, you put a movable stock on it, it's an assault weapon. It's more deadly. No, you're actually mentally ill if you think that. So if someone needs to bring some type of argument, because there's no way that they can argue in a court that this is less dangerous in lethality than the alleged banned firearms already. If I can go into a store and buy this with my permitting, if I'm permitted, if they're going to keep the permitting, which I think it's a little bit BS, it should be loosened up a little bit, because you shouldn't have to go through a government. You shouldn't be able to allow a government, which we already know is probably corrupt at this point, to be the arbiter, to be the gatekeeper, to say, no, we're going to say yes or no on you being able to own a gun. It should be only to make sure that you're not literally a violent criminal. You're not a person that's going to go out and do something horrible. There should be some, like, basic process, but it all has to be under the confines of what's historically been done. But see, the problem is we had a very different country back in those times. We had a Christian homogenous country back in those times, right? Where everyone spoke the same language, everyone believed in the same God, right? Yeah, there was problems, but we didn't see the things that we do today. And it's not because of the guns. They had lots of guns. We've had semi-auto high power rifles for 100 years, over 100 years, okay? When the left tries to argue that these are weapons of war and they're unusually dangerous, so number one, we're not arguing to have grenade launchers and all this other stuff, right? Like this is not gonna win you any wars. This is not gonna do anything here. This is just to give us just a fighting chance against tyranny, against because they're like, they have tanks, they have F-16s and everything like that. It's like, dude, they didn't write the Second Amendment to guarantee you're gonna win against a tyrannical government. But it's just to say that we could all form a militia for domestic foreign threats if China was to take over, any of these other countries were to take over. We can come together and defend what we see is right, defend our way of life, for our self-preservation, for our culture, our history, our traditions. That's America, that's Europe, right? And it's been destroyed in Europe, and they want to destroy it here because they know arms are power. Even they're banning zombie knives in England and Great Britain, okay? They're completely being disarmed because even knives, right? How many wars have been waged with knives, with swords, right? Wars have been waged like this. Like 1,000 people with swords can overtake 5,000 people without swords, etc. It's power. Just having a weapon alone can sway the power. One person with a weapon can take on multiple people without, because it's the balance of power, right? And it goes from levels, from blunt weapons to bladed weapons to like single shots to lever actions, and it goes all the way up of scale of weaponry. And they want to start at the lowest hanging fruit. They want to start with the best, most common use firearms that are going to be able to be used for self-defense of your home, in common use if we ever had to form up in a militia, because that's what the Second Amendment says. They say, that's like horrible and that's just right-wing conspiracy and that's etc. It's like, dude, what the hell were to happen if Red Dawn happens right now? And they'll say, that never happens, you shouldn't be. It's like, dude, you still carry a fire extinguisher knowing that the chances of a fire happening are probably pretty slim. Like all of us, we probably haven't had to deal with a fire burning down our house, but you still have a fire extinguisher, right? You're still prepared for those things. You still carry a life jacket on the boat, right? And people will be like, I don't even give a damn, dude, it's just the law, that's the only reason. It's like, dude, all right, I get it. You should have a right, right? You should have a right to be able to decide if you want to have something to defend yourself or not. If you don't want to have one, go ahead. But they work so hard to try to disarm you, and it goes to show. Because if you're a law-abiding citizen and you never ever in your life wanted to ever think about or go do any harm to any innocent person, you should think to yourself, these people want to take away what I got. I'm not this person that committed this shooting. They want to literally take away millions of people's rights to defend themselves using crises where people are getting killed. Innocent people are getting killed by lunatics, where there wasn't a gun to defend it. And they say there's no such thing as a good guy with a gun. Literally every single single police officer that has killed a bad guy that was actually a threat to their lives and others' lives was a good guy with a gun. So you're trying to say that police officers aren't good guys with a gun? So what you're saying, what they're actually saying is you need to have some level of training to be able to, which they would be okay with you having a gun or an assault weapon, so-called assault weapon, if you go through some form of training. They're okay with the government having that gun and using it. But if you were to say, okay, in these blue states, are you okay with us going through like an 18-hour class like you make us go through to get a pistol permit to be able to legally obtain assault weapons? They'll be like, nope, those shouldn't be in civilian hands. These people are hypocritical. They violated the Constitution. Who knows what the founding fathers would have labeled them as? Possibly treasonous laws. It's all for power. It's all for money. It's all for gain. They try to claim that the gun industry is using money, using lives. Like, oh, they don't care about the lives of children. They're just making so much money. Like, people that are actually in the gun industry knows that there's not that much money to be made on any of this. Like PSA here, they sell a lot of their firearms for not a high ticket price value, right? It's not like they're making exorbitant amounts of profit margin. They'll never call out the pharmaceutical companies. They'll never call out all these other people that make exorbitant amounts of profit margin. How much profit margin you really think they're making on an AR or some of these rifles? That's gun manufacturer. Once you get into the retail side of it, like an FFL, like, dude, I've heard some of these guys making like $50 to $100 selling a gun. And then you got to go through all the credit card fees and all the bullshit. Like, it's complete lies coming from people that have literally never bought a gun before, coming from people with septum piercings, coming from people that literally hate you. They hate this country. They hate everything about it. They're communists. They literally hate Europe. They hate your ancestry. They literally hate the nuclear family. They've literally hated everything that's built this country. So these people have outed themselves and they want to strip you of your guns. That's my argument. That's my whole entire rant, everything tying in together. If this is legal and not unusually dangerous, then your AR, then your standard AR is not illegal and unusually dangerous, but it is. So how can they reason that? Tell me, how can they reason that? And there's a bunch of leftists that'll be like, that should be banned too. No, you, because there's no way in hell the Supreme Court could ban literally a hunting Mini 14, because that is literally in common use, because it's already being argued that the AR, the standard AR, is in common use. So if that's literally being argued that's in common use, there could be literally no grounds where nobody would support your ass on banning hunting semi-auto rifles. That is 100% common use and protected under the Second Amendment. And they would 100% would be using those, the settlers would be if they had them, and they would probably be using ARs because that's what they would have wanted. That would have been the best thing to use. So these people, just when you break it down, it's BS, and they just want to pull on your heartstrings, but don't stand for it. Ladies and gentlemen, tell me what you think, because is the AR in common use? Is it protected under the Second Amendment? How can they say this weapon, all of a sudden you pull off a couple features, you pull off a couple of the features of the AR, so all of a sudden I pull off a couple of those scary features of that unusually dangerous gun, and now it's not unusually dangerous. I put a hunting grip on my gun, and it's not unusually dangerous. Supreme Court, what is this? The Supreme Court needs to do something here. They need, and the ammo background checks. New York needs to have its ammo background checks challenged now that it's been shot down in California, and now that open carry is legal in Florida, somebody better get on that and start suing New York State, because those with permits, those with concealed carry permits, we've already had to go through hell and high water to get that. There should be a provision for open carry as well. And people will be like, dude, open carry is dumb. That's the easy way for people to come steal your firearm, etc. But what if you're literally licensed? What if you're licensed armed security? What if you're someone else and you have like a level 3 retention holster and you want to go out in public and have your firearm out legally and lawfully? Like, if you're trained and you've already gone through all these processes, like in New York you've already had to go through, then you should have that right, dude. If I live in East Bumble, in East Boondocks, and I want to walk down my road and not have somebody call the cops on me and my ass be arrested, like, yeah, even if it's illegal, someone might call the cops on you. But at least when the cops pull up and see that I'm permitted and I'm allowed to do it, I don't go to jail and I can continue on my day and do my thing. Like, if I want to walk to the creek, if I live in East Bumble and go hunting, or I just want to have it, yeah, oh, there'd be like a zero crime. What do you want to have in East Bumble East community? And it's like, dude, that's my right. That's my freedom. What if Joe Schmo and the white pedophile van shows up, you know? Like, that's my right. That's my freedom. What if I want to go hunt? What if I want to go shoot, what if I want to go shoot any of the legal and lawful game if it's hunting season at the time, right? These people want to tell you how to live. That's the whole point. They want to tell you that they can do it better. They want to tell you you're too dumb to defend yourself. They want to tell you that you're not capable of doing this, because you yourselves know that you would never do a crime like this, but just because there's some evil scumbags and, you know, humans are fallen by nature, that we need to take everyone's right for self-preservation away and give it solely to the government, which they say are God. No, we say to that, hell no, you're not God. Jesus Christ is God. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like, hit the subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.